So, as for you, what is the role of composer in modern music?
For me, composing is exactly the same thing as being an improviser. It's for me exactly the same thing. I believe that is one thing that is write down and put the others work for me. But it could be also that way that I do exactly the same thing with the same kind of people and we still create all together. I guess that thing about composing started with me a very long time ago, and I don't see any difference about just being an improviser and musician or composer. There's just no difference for me at all.
As for you, what is the role of the composer in modern music?
That's a good question. I'll say the way I see my role as a composer is to try to get the best out of the musicians I compose for. I'm not a composer like a classical composer, but so I mostly work with musicians who are great improvisers and might have a strong identity in their own sound. So for me, the way I can decide certain structures and processes in the music should help make the musicians flower, you can say, if you understand what I mean. Okay. But I think I'm working a lot with groups that play completely free improvised also, but with larger groups I think it's still is very interesting to have composed structures. It can help give the music more direction, and it can also help to push the musicians out of their comfort zone in order to do something different. And I think in general, as soon as you are more than, let's say, 5 musicians in a group, it can be a little hard to work only with completely free improvised music, because then suddenly you are so many. So in those bigger constellations, it can be nice to have some pre-decided structures.
And what does it mean for you when you say, I have composed a new piece?
Yeah, I mean, usually it's not about one piece, but usually it comes as an exhibition for me, as an exhibition of different pictures, where and it's nothing to do about the actual tonal world. Usually for me it always is about the philosophical thought first. So first of all, I always get the idea from something else but music, and then I create something else around it. And it's going to be I'm instinctive musician, so I'm never going to plan it or anything. It is how it is. I cannot change it. I know it already. I'm not going to be disappointed about myself. Why should I be disappointed about myself? I cannot jump over my shadow. It's me. I can be better, of course, always, but it's only a matter of sharpening your tools, what I would say.
Okay. And when you say I have composed a new piece, what does it mean for you?
If I say I have composed a new piece, I have composed a new piece, and I am writing sometimes for musicians who might have a classical or new music background, who are maybe not super strong improvisers but are fantastic musicians and can read. And I think it's interesting also to have those blends of musicians who have a classical background or another, but mostly classical I worked with, and improvising musicians with a jazz or rock background.
Okay. And what do you think about sense of humor in music? Is it necessary to be very serious to be a good composer, or it's necessary to have this sense?
Humor doesn't really matter what kind of art, or if you're a banker or finance person. I mean, you need to have a sense of humor. I mean, you have to laugh about yourself and also laugh about your. I would say, like, we all have patterns. And there's, again, I have to say, there's nothing to do. We have patterns. Make a joke about it. It will be much better.
Okay. And what do you think about sense of humor in music? Is it necessary to be deadly serious for the composer, or you can't be a good composer without sense of humor?
You can definitely be a good composer without sense of humor, but I like. For me, humor is a fantastic thing, but I don't like if it becomes that it has to be, that there has to be humor in it, where it gets, it can get a little artificial sometimes if you feel that it should have that kind of entertainment aspect. But a lot of times it might, if you're open to it, it might come natural to a concert. And I've heard, as being in the audience, I've heard a lot of concerts with absolutely no humor, which has been fantastic, as long as it's not boring. And I've also heard concerts where there was some humor aspects, which were great, and also some which were not great. So it's not so black and white.
For you to be a composer, you said that for you to be a composer and to be an improviser is the same.
Mm-hmm.
But is it necessary for every musician to be an improviser and for every composer to be an improviser too?
Yeah, I have to be very honest, and I know that many people are not agreeing with me, but I think so that lots of people who are classical composers, they are actually missing a lot if they don't play instrument every day. I think it is they are actually more far away from music just for being composers and go anal about getting something really precise, while actually maybe just follow it by breathing, by also there's no way there is mistakes in stuff like that. I think so that composition should be changing also with the centuries. I don't want to play my own music all the time the same way. Why should it be like that? So I think improvisation is healthy for absolutely every person. Not about music also, talking about office lady.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do you think that today every composer should be an improviser and vice versa, every improviser should be a composer?
No, I don't think somebody should be something. But for myself, being both an improviser and composer has, for me, it's nurturing each other a lot. Those two practices, because the improvising thing gives me a lot of ideas and material for as a composer, and also being a composer has, I believe it helps me in having a sense of form and structure in a way that I probably wouldn't have had, not in the same way at least, if I was not a composer also. And I must say, I also like to have go on tour playing with smaller groups, only improvising every time. Every concert, everything is new, it's a new situation, and which also means that hopefully you create something new. But then also have periods at home, in my home, at the desk, and thinking more deeply about certain processes and building up textures. And it's more like you could compare it. For me, I sometimes feel like being a sculpture, but with sound and melody. maybe melody.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Can I?